Hello, everybody. It's Sir Topham Hackerai with a sort of recorded video about my current thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass. So for those who don't know, Nintendo recently added an expansion to their Nintendo Switch Online subscription service, which was originally a $20 affair, a third of the price of the competition, but a third of the price of the competition's features. You see, what you see is what you get, and it's all good in the hood. But they recently released a $50 expanded version on it that for the time being only has Sega Genesis games, of which there's only like 18. Or like small, like only like not 18, but I think there's like there's 18 Genesis games. Actually, I think there might be fewer, and then literally 9 N64 games. I have played the Genesis games, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I decided to be a fucking clown and plonk down the $50 for the expansion pass. However, there is several things to know if you're getting the expansion pass. One, it's $50 a year, which is, in my mind, fine. You're not paying $50 per month or per period of months. It's per 12 months, so an entire year. So, essentially, you'll just be $50 per 1 month out of the year, which is fine, provided that Nintendo ups the ante on updating it with new content and other shit. On November 5th, the expansion pass will have free access to the Happy Home Paradise DLC for Animal Crossing, and that will make it slightly less bad, kinda. My view on the NSO Expansion Pass is that it's alright. Like, for $50, you are getting a bunch of weird Genesis games and 9 N64 games. And when you take into account the prices of some of the original cartridges, like, for me, I'm a retro collector, as you can plainly see. There's my PlayStation 2, Sega CD and Saturn, Master System, Genesis, more Master System and Genesis, more PS2, and then PS1. Essentially, I am a retro collector, and some of these cartridges are really fucking expensive, like Super Mario Kart 64. That's expensive. Phantasy Star 4, it's currently on Lukey Games for like $124 last time I checked. I originally got my cartridge of Phantasy Star 4 on the same website back when it was around for $40. So, yeah. So, I do think compared to retro game collecting, it is cheaper, but it's only cheaper at first, Over the years, that sort of compounds. That 1 year 50 soon turns into 2 years where you've paid them $100, and then 3 years, $150. In like 10 years, assuming that the Switch is going to stick around for the next 10 years, you would have essentially paid around like $500, if my math is correct, for what is essentially a bunch of ROMs. But compared to emulation, and people say emulation's always better. Personally, I'm fine with emulation, but I do not go out and do it because I'm kind of a purist. It's the reason why I'm into retro game collecting. I want to experience the system as intended in its original form, and I want to do that for 2 reasons. One, I just prefer to have the system's controller, and I like to interface with the original systems. Putting the disc in, watching the startup screens, putting the cartridge, it's part of an experience. Secondly, I am a bit of a history freak. I want to enjoy the systems as people back in the day would enjoy these systems as part of their culture. Like, the culture of the 90s, it's all like attitude, grunge, and like electronic dance, Euro dance, and the two consoles I see that, especially the attitude grunge first half of the 90s, and then into the Euro dance pop era of the 90s from 1995 onward, is the Sega Genesis and the PlayStation 2. Both I love very much and very dearly, and I want to experience those systems alongside experiencing the kinds of pop culture people of that time period would want to experience. Of course, one would argue that the NSO is not that, and you are pretty much right on that regard. I think that that's a very right assumption to make, but I also want to enjoy these sort of in an official manner. Like, of course, downloading the ROMs, getting an emulator is much better. It's for free. You have access to better features and other shit. But frankly, I don't want to do emulation because it's just not that fun. That, and it's like, I mean, it is fun, but I mean, who wants to like enjoy like retro games on this fucker? Okay, who would want to do that? And of course, I'm not simping for Nintendo, because honestly, Nintendo is a sack of shit. They treat their fans like garbage. They sue the pants off of emulation websites for distributing Nintendo ROMs, and they essentially want to fuck the consumer over, and according to my mom's boyfriend, they're in the absolute right to do so. However, like I keep telling my mom's boyfriend, just because Nintendo wants to do something that is totally in their right doesn't mean that they shouldn't. That doesn't mean they should, because it harms the consumer. And Gabe Newell always said piracy is a service issue, so maybe Nintendo should improve their fucking service. Whoop-de-doo. Anyway, let's get back to the NSO. So what games are there on the NSO? So let's start with the Genesis games. All I can think of is Shinobi 3, Sonic 2, Phantasy Star 4, Echo the Dolphin, Golden Axe, Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hardcore, Strider, and like maybe a couple others. It's a very weird selection of Genesis games because half of them are sequels. And I just don't find that very interesting. Like, of course, Phantasy Star 4 is the best Phantasy Star, but Phantasy Star 2 is preferable to me. I love Phantasy Star 2. Like, just love it. It's my favorite. Just because the NSO has the best doesn't mean it's necessarily my favorite. So, whatever. Sonic 2 is another interesting inclusion because you can technically get it in two different places. One, off the eShop via Sega Ages, and two, from the Sega Genesis collection. Sega Genesis Classics collection. This game cost about like 30 bones in US dollars, and you get 50 or so games on this sucker, which is a lot better than what the NSO has as far as the quality of the Genesis emulation. And by the way, we will discuss the quality of emulation on the N64. We're gonna get to that. But the quality of the Genesis emulator is fine, I guess. Like, I haven't seen any problems with it, albeit that's probably because I spent only a small period of time with it. And then we go to the N64, which is the selection and quality of the N64 offerings, and the quality of the emulator. If I had to describe it, it's my personal feelings of it. I'm not upset, but I am disappointed. know. Like, because, for one, I'm glad that they have N64 games on there, but I am disappointed on how few there are, and I am disappointed on the quality of the emulation. For example, in Ocarina of Time, you're missing a lot of fog effects, which on one hand, people are glad because, you know, it's sort of everybody's worst thing for early 3D, you know. They had to hide shit with fog so that way the 32-bit and 64-bit systems of the 5th generation and a little bit into the 6th generation wouldn't catch on fire or slow down. But due to the way fog is implemented in Ocarina of Time, where it's more of an atmospheric effect, it has tragically, it has been sort of removed, and it's been just sort of a disappointment. Also, there's audio glitches where the music would cut out, like it, and then start playing again. Like, you know how like on early CD-based consoles, when the music stops, there's like a slight pause before the music loops again. Like, it's actually very noticeable if you play something like Sonic CD, which is like over there. But it's kind of noticeable in the N64, which is interesting because it's supposed to be a cartridge-based system, not a CD one. Then that was mighty disappointing. One, it's nice to see Super Mario 64 in a form that isn't, you know, that isn't in the form that was killed off in March 31st of last year. Like, I bought Super Mario 3D All-Stars when it came out, and I'm lucky to obtain a copy because I love Mario 64. I tried Galaxy, kind of gave me motion sickness. Sunshine, I never play Sunshine because it's buggy, it's difficult, and you fall through the floor a whole bunch. It's the perfect encapsulation of why Shigeru Miyamoto needs to go home after 6 o'clock every night at Nintendo's headquarters in Kyoto. He just really needs to go the fuck home and maybe bang his wife. You know, do something meaningful with his life other than inconveniencing Nintendo fans. What else? There's Mario 64 Ocarina of Time Win Back, which is actually quite interesting because there's a Serbian turbo folk song that rips one of the tracks from that game and uses it as the main instrumental. Fun fact, I don't know the name of it because I don't listen to shitty turbo folk. I listen to good turbo folk, such as from Roki Volovic and Corridor, Bajimala Ninja, maybe one other? I don't know. So then Win Back, Ocarina of Time, then Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Dr. Mario 64, and I'm blanking on a few others. I think Mario Tennis and Yoshi's Story. Mario 64 plays fine. It's fine. There is a little bit of input lag, but luckily, when I have played for the day and a half that I did playing the Mario 64 and a little bit of Ocarina of Time, I have not encountered input lag to the extent where it negatively impacts my gameplay. It has not impacted. It's not that bad, but I mean, it's kind of weird. Mario Kart 64 plays good. That all plays good, but there's just not a lot of interesting titles. The only three I can think of is Mario Kart 64, Ocarina of Time, and Super Mario 64. I don't give a shit about Win Back. I don't give a shit about Yoshi's Story. I especially don't give a fuck about Mario Tennis. Maybe Dr. Mario 64 I would try out because it's interesting and it's like the last first-party Nintendo game ever released for the system. It was the last one. I think the last game released for it officially was, I think, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, I believe. Like, that game got ported to just about every console, both 5th and 6th generation, aside from all the Sega ones. Don't tell the Sega fans. And then that's it. Like, $50. I am not upset, but I am disappointed. However, I think it could have been worse. I think they could have included less Sega Genesis games. They couldn't have added Sega Genesis games at all. But honestly, I already own a shit ton through my collection that is currently on my bottom shelves. I own a lot through the Classics collection, and I own a Sega CD and a 32X, which I don't think NSO is ever going to fuck with, because nobody talks about the add-ons. I don't think Sega has the balls to talk about their add-ons with Nintendo. As far as content they're going to add on to the Nintendo 64, they announced a bunch of games for the N64 thing to be released over time, and I'm hoping with $50 per month, they actually increase the amount and the frequency of new retro games being released on the NSO, because it's been a drip feed for the past, year. I don't think they've added anything since, they added, Bamboozle, Claymates, and that other game, Jelly Boy. And honestly, when Nintendo starts breaking out the shitty Amiga ports like Bamboozle and Jelly Boy, at that point, Nintendo, if you're not going to release an SNES games, but give us these European games, just fucking add Commodore Amiga games to the NSO, alright? I'm pretty sure getting the rights to the Commodore Amiga is very easy, and I doubt anybody is doing anything with their Amiga games. That Nintendo's always been releasing trash the past few years on the NES and SNES, and I'm hoping with the $50 as incentive, they actually change their shit. Also, I see a lot of people complain about Nintendo. This is a side tangent. A lot of people complain about Nintendo, and they complain to them on Twitter, on their social media, on Nintendo's videos. Guys, Nintendo has a way for fans to directly communicate with them. It's called the support hotline. And I've done this a whole bunch, and you can leave consumer feedback to Nintendo via their support hotline. And it's easy, okay? You call it the support line. It's a 1-800 number, at least here in the United States. I don't know how phone numbers work, phone number formats work in Japan and Europe, but it's probably essentially the same thing. You press 1 to ask for some customer support person to call to. You press, I think, the number 4, which is for games, contests, and promotions. Then you press 1 again because it's about games. And then you just complain to them. You tell them, listen, I want the X, Y, and Z, but ABC's got to go, and you need to improve these services. Because here's what they do. They type it down on their computers, and they send it to the relevant persons. Meaning, if enough people call their support hotline, big changes could be made, okay? You don't have to complain on their YouTube channel because they ain't looking at that shit. The moment they release it, they ain't paying attention to it. You can stop complaining about them on social media because that ain't gonna fucking work. Because Nintendo doesn't have any community spokespeople that work with the community. So, whatever. I'm hoping that things do improve. As for the Animal Crossing DLC, I'm thinking about playing Animal Crossing more regularly when it comes out, but I have largely dropped off from it because I've largely dropped off from playing it because I hate the stock market, but it's the only way to get enough bells to do anything, and I'm sick of just doing the usual bell grinds, and I just hate Tom Nook's guts. Like, yeah, I want my house to be bigger, but stop entrapping me in debt. That's like shit that like China does, the Chinese government does to like African nations, so that way they can get them to suck their dicks. Tom Nook, you're better than Xi Jinping, okay? That, and at least I know you're not going to get the entire world sick. Like, Jesus Christ. Besides that, in conclusion, the NSO is aight. The expansion pass is aight. Personally, I would wait until there's more content on that. However, I am a utter fucking clown, and I got it day one. Technically day two, because they didn't release it on the 25th. They actually had to do server maintenance and put in a system update at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Technically, they did it at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, but time is linear, sadly, and I wasn't able to purchase it until the following day. I also got a pair of pit vipers and a bunch of other shit, so let's see what happens. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Secondly, I will be making a video, I will be doing a live stream sooner or later about the whole James Rolfe Cinemassacre thing. I thank the people for watching the James Rolfe's apology video. I thank the people for getting me to 100 subscribers. And I thank the people for making it the fastest viewed video on my channel and one of the most highly viewed videos on my channel. Thank you and good night.